All right, everybody, we are going to be adding in some HUD work now. And what that means is that we're going to have some different parts of our screen show up. Every time we add somebody new to our screen, we're going to have them pull up a different part of our HUD, our heads-up display. So to do that, we need to start building out some widgets. So let's go down here to our content drawer. Let's see. I'm just going to get rid of these two because this is actually the beginning of what we're going to need. I'm just going to get rid of those. There we go. And we do want to make another folder here. I just called mine CC_HUD for Couch Co-op HUD. And I just want to create a new folder. Made a new folder. So we got our folder. We're going to go inside here. We're going to make a couple of widgets. We're going to go into our menu, right click in this content area, and then we're going to go down to user interface, widget blueprint. And we're going to click on user widget. We're going to use a W for widget underscore. This is CC Couch Co-op. And this is going to be our HUD. This is going to be our big overall HUD for the screen. And then we're going to right click and we can duplicate this one. I'm just going to call it keep the CC, but this one's going to be our player card. This is going to be an individual piece. It's going to be kind of modular. It's going to allow us to use this over and over inside of this HUD right here. So we're going to start off with our player card. And first thing we're going to need to do is we're going to start off in the designer right here. There's two different parts to this. There's a graph over here where we can code different elements of the HUD, and we can also build it right here, the visual side of it. So first thing we're going to want to do is grab a vertical box, and we're just going to click and drag that down here. It's going to show up in this space. Now, it may look like it's the entire size of the screen, but we're actually going to resize this up here at the very top. Now, this is a little squirrely. I don't know why they leave this control in this space, and I'm sure there's another place to look for it. But up here at the very top, you may have to kind of pull it apart a little bit. Where it says fill screen, we want to go to custom on screen. Now, that'll give you a width. 400 is what we're going to set this to. And it'll give you a height. 100, that sounds good, actually. We'll go with that. So this is actually more like what we're going to see on the screen. This is about the size right here. And let's go ahead and add a few more things. We're going to need a text box. Actually, it's not. I shouldn't look for text boxes. This is for input. This is just text. So I'm just going to go ahead and drag that in on top of the vertical box. And that's going to nest itself right inside of the vertical box. Next thing I'm going to need is a progress bar, and I'll tell you what we're going to use these for in just a second. Go ahead and drag that in, and the progress bar is at the bottom. Okay, so the text box, let me go ahead and open up the details over here a little bit more. Text box, if we go to the details after clicking on that, this is what we're going to use to keep track of our score in our game. So I'm going to just rename this text_score. And we do want this to be a variable so we can access it inside of our graph over here, and we can make changes to it. Right down here we have the text that's actually showing on screen. Since it's going to be a score, I'm just going to hit it with a bunch of zeros. You'll see it changes over here as well. And if we want to change the color of any of these, we can go in here to the color and opacity, and we'd be able to change a lot of those aspects, but we're going to probably leave it as white for now just to have some uniformity between these, because our progress bar and other elements are going to be the color of whatever the character is. So the progress bar right here, I'm going to give it another name. This is going to be our health bar. Okay, make sure that is a variable. And we're going to fill. You're going to set that for fill, and we're also going to go back to the text. I'm going to set that for fill as well. Okay, and then going back to the health bar, you might notice right now it's all gray, but that's actually not the color it's going to have whenever the health bar fills up. So if you go here to percent under progress, let it hover over this number right here, and you start dragging, you'll notice it starts to fill up blue, because our filling color opacity down here is blue for our progress bar, and this is, just set it for 1, that's full, and we handle this as a percentage whenever we access it later on, and we're going to be playing with any kind of health, whether we're healing or taking anything away. So that's something to keep in mind right there. Let's go ahead and go into the graph now. We're going to code a few things about this. We're going to go ahead and pull the event tick out of the way. Event construct. is something we're going to use here in just a little bit. What we're going to start off with is event pre-construct. So this is like what happens and loads before the game actually shows up on screen. So that's where we want to build this, all these different pieces out now. Okay, so first thing we're going to want to do is let's give the text score. We're going to need to say where we want it to show up justifiably, like how is it going to be justified on our screen, because as you can see right now it's justified to the left, and when we have this up in the other corner, in an opposite corner, we want it to be justified to the right. So what we're going to do is go over here and set some formatting with a couple nodes to make that work for us. So to hold on to some information that we're going to be setting in a different place, we're actually going to set that in the HUD we're going to be making here in a second. We're going to need a variable to hold on to that. So let's go ahead and add a variable over here on the side, and we're going to call this justification. There we go. And the type that we're going to use is going to be called an eText justify. There it is right there. And eText justify is the type. We're going to make that instance editable so we can find this inside of another widget. And let's see, that should take care of everything for us. Let me go ahead and drop this down here. We're going to do set justification. And right now you can see it's automatically on the left, but we'll be able to tie in a node once we bring this justification variable in there, and we're in good shape now that we have everything we need to use this in a different place. Now I also want to get our health bar, and we want to set the color of that to match with our player. So I'm going to go ahead and bring this out here. We get that, and what we're going to want to do is set fill, color, and opacity, and that is referencing the exact thing I was telling you about over here as far as the color. So that's the same node we're messing with right here. Go ahead and hook that up, and this is another thing that we want to control from another widget, which is going to be the HUD, and this one is going to be for the player color, and what we want to use here is called a linear color. So I'm going to type that in, and we're looking for linear color. There it is right there. Okay, and we want that to be instance editable as well. I'm going to go ahead and drag that out. Let's get the player color. Cool. And I'm just going to drag this up here. That should be pretty good. Now, one more thing we're going to need is that we need the color to be attributed to a specific player. So for that, what we'll need to do is make another variable here, and that one's going to be called, let's see, what should we call that one? Just player, probably player index would be the easiest thing, because that's what we're already working with when we're trying to differentiate these. So player index. And for that, this is just going to be an integer. Okay. And let's go ahead and set that up as well. Okay. We've compiled everything. Now for the basics, we have everything pretty much ready to go. Let's go ahead and jump into the HUD real quick, and I can show you how this is going to be stacking up in this space. So we already have our HUD right here listed, and everything underneath this is where we're going to be building this yet again. Okay, so we'll need a container, just like we used that vertical box in the other player card. We're going to use a canvas. Okay, canvas panel. Just drag that right in here. And this one actually is mimicking the entire screen, so we can actually say where we want certain things to be anchored around different parts of the screen. All right, and since we have, I'm going to go ahead and compile that. I'm going to save everything just so we can make sure we can access this player card, because what we can do now that we've made that is we can go up to our palette and we can include our player card now inside of this space. Okay, so I'm going to make a couple changes here so we know exactly which one this is. This is player one. This is player card one, player one card. Yeah, let's just do it that way. It's a little bit different that way. Couple things we're going to want to change. Let's see, we've got all of our default stuff here, so we can set a player color, we can set our index, we can have our justification, but one aspect that we're going to be changing quite a few times is position X and position Y, but size X is going to stay the same, and so is size Y. So I'm hoping that once I do this, it'll retain all of this information when I make a copy here. okay, because that's about what we want as far as the sizing of this. All right, I'm going to go ahead and do duplicate, and let's change that one up to card 2, and then we'll go down here and we will do, looks like it's matching up because I'm not seeing anything behind it, and then we'll do card for player 3. There we go, and we'll do one more, duplicate, and this one is going to be for player 4. Okay, and now we just have to go in and do some of the other formatting that needs to go along with this. So our anchor for this one is going to be in the top left. Position is going to be about 50. That's just padding it out about 50 away from the edge. And we're also going to do it 50 from the top, so it drops down a little bit. I might as well put the rest of these in their anchors real quick, just so they're not sitting on top of each other. Player card 2 needs to go in the top right. Player card 3 needs to go in the bottom left, and player card 4 needs to go in the bottom right. Okay, so we're still going to have to do positions on each one of these, so I should probably go ahead and set that so they're not sitting on top of each other. Player card 2 is supposed to be over in the corner, so that one's going to be -450, and it's still going to be about 50 down from the top, just like the one right across from it. Player card 3 is going to be let's see, I think it's a -150, and oh no, position is -150. The position X is still only 50 away from the edge. There we go. Player card 4, that one's going to be both the negatives, the -450 and the -150. I should drop it down to the bottom. Okay, let's go back to player card 1, and we'll just reset everything. Now everything's in their proper space. We just need to set all the other pieces. So let's go into player color here. We're going to just click on that little black spot. And something to kind of keep your life a lot easier is I've got a few different themes in here right now, and I think I can actually get rid of these. Nah, not really. Okay. But the way to make one of these, just click on create new theme. Okay. And for this new theme, I'm going to call this, let's see, I've used player colors, character colors. Let's call it player card colors. There we go. And now every time I add something in, I can put it into a specific little library there, so I can make sure I'm getting the same color every time. So yellow is going to be the color of our first player, and I just need to hit the little plus right there. And then the next one over is going to be red. So let me kind of get a good red there. That looks good. And then the bottom left for player 3 is going to be green. So like a nice kind of bright green would be good. But I don't want it to get confused very easily. So let's go a little darker. If you need to make something a little bit darker, this slider right here will help you out with that. All right, go ahead and hit OK. Actually, I didn't want that to be green, did I? I also had one more I needed to get here. I'm already on that green, so I'm going to add it in. And then I need one more. I need the blue. Okay, and that's a nice shade of blue right there. Add that in. And the one I actually want is the yellow. Okay, so there's yellow. And let's see, everything else looks pretty good. Justifications to the left, player color is that, and the player index is 0. Okay, cool. Player 2 card, the index is 1. The color is red. And justification is to the right. Okay, player card 3 down in the bottom left corner. Justification to the left. It's going to be green. And player index is 2. And last one we have here, justifications to the right. Player color is blue. And index is going to be 3. Okay, so this is how everything's going to be showing up on the screen whenever we activate this. And this is just pulling from all these player cards that we built just moments ago. So a couple things we're going to need to do real quick to make this show up on the screen is we need to go into our game mode, which is still in the couch co-op space, and we're going to need to make it show the widget on screen. So let's see, let's just go in there real quick, and I think a good spot might be right here. Let me kind of check a couple other things real fast just to be sure. But I think that'd be better spot over the controller. The reason being that the game mode comes in and it operates no matter what's happening. So that should make everything a little bit easier. So yeah, let's go ahead and do that. So right after we establish the default pawn class, let's drag off here. We're going to do create widget. Cool. And I'm going to go ahead and zoom in here, and I want to get the HUD. That's the one we're going to be putting out. We're probably going to need to get a reference to this HUD right here. So I've actually got one right here, but I'm just going to remake it because I think it's always a good idea. If you had something previous and you're having to remake it, it's a good idea just to remake the variables too. All right, going to promote that to a variable. We're down here with this new var, and I'm going to call this HUD ref. Okay, and let's go ahead and attach that into the rest of our code here. Actually, I think I need one more thing. We've got that reference to the HUD, which I'm sure we're going to be using later inside the game mode because we're going to need to update it at times. We're going to need to update the HUD. So it's a good idea to have this as a variable that you can just pull out whenever you need. And then we're going to add this, add to viewport. There we go. And we'll need a reference to which one we're going to be putting out there. Okay, so that should be enough to get everything going. Let's go ahead and save it. And before I close it, let's check it out. Yep, there's all our HUDs working right there. Everything looks good. All right, going to go ahead and drop out. Now we have one more feature we want to add into this HUD real quickly. Actually, it's going to be on the game, not the game mode, the player card. And what we need here is we want it to switch between a message that says press start to kind of tell it that, you know, this position's open, this player index is open, so you can play from here. And to do that, what we're going to need to do is make some changes on the designer, but we're also going to need to make some code here to go along with the event construct. So let's go back to the designer real quick. We're in the player card right now, in case you weren't quite sure where we're at. I want to click on this vertical box right here, right click on it, go to wrap with, and we're going to do a widget switcher. Okay, so what a widget switcher does is it allows you to switch between several widgets that are in the same hierarchy. Okay, and what we're going to do is we're going to add in, I'm going to put this right here on the widget switcher, which actually I want to get rid of that 0 because I just want to call it widget switcher. It's what's going to be moving between the different ones we make here. And the other one is going to be a border. Now what a border, spelled B-O-R-D-E-R, does for you is that it kind of just makes like a big space to put other things on top of, like kind of gives you a background more than anything else. And underneath this, I'm going to need some text. So I'm going to go ahead and get some text here, drag that on top of the border. And you might notice now both the vertical box and the border have things underneath them. The border is actually going to be something we're going to need to know the name of so we can switch between them. And this is going to be called the start box. Let's call it that. And then, yeah, we do need to be a variable so we can find it. And then the text block that we're going to have right here, that's going to be text start. Let's call it that. We don't really need to have that as a variable because we're not going to change it. Let's see, but it should say something a little bit different. So right here is the text inside of the text block, what it's going to be saying inside of that space. And we want this to say press start on gamepad. Okay, and we can't really see it very well right now, so let's go back to the start box. That's the border, remember? And we want to go to the brush color on this, and I'm just gonna pick red. Okay, now we can see how everything looks. Actually, let's pick yellow because that's what the okay, and we want this to be, let me try like 28. It's too big. Okay, so 26. Oh, that looks pretty good. Okay, cool. So this is going to be on one side, and then the vertical box will be on the other, like when it's actually active. So what we want to do is we want to start with this. So you can notice, like when I click between these two, they just show whatever I'm clicking on. But we want the start box to be the first thing we come across, because now that we have these in an order, they're in an index as well. So just like our players, start box is index 0, vertical box is index 1, and we can use that to switch back and forth, or tell it, you know, like, hey, is this a start box? It's in this index, we want to switch to the other one. So let's go ahead and get that built real quick. Okay, so let's go to the graph, and okay, so on the event construct, we have our player index, so that's one thing we're going to need, so it knows which HUD to update based on what the player index is. Then we're going to get player controller. Whoops, got to spell controller right. There we go. And if it doesn't link up right to your player index, or right here it doesn't have the player index, then you need to look for another get player controller. That's the one you want to make sure you grab. And then let's see, we're probably going to need one more variable. This one's going to be called assigned controller. Okay, so whenever we make our assigned controller right here, we want to make sure that we set that up as a player controller. So just want to look for player controller. Let's go back up in here. Player controller. Okay, it's that one right there. And then we can assign that right over here. We're going to just drag this in, and we are going to set this, and we'll connect this up. And the next thing we're going to want to do is we're going to it's kind of like an event dispatcher, the way this looks and kind of the way it acts. And what we're going to do is drag off of this, and this is a note I wouldn't expect you guys to really know, just because it's just something you have to come into contact with. You can't discern this one just kind of guessing, but we're going to use bind event to on possessed pawn changed. Okay, so what that means basically is you have a new pawn that's been brought into the world, and it's been activated, it's been possessed, so it can do stuff. Okay, and then the reason I say this is like an event dispatcher, because we have this little event right down here, and I'm going to drag off of that, and we're going to make a custom event. Okay, and I'm going to call this pawn activated. I can't, things just keep getting in the way. There we go. And from here, I want to make sure it's valid, so we're going to add a valid check-in, because we're dealing with things that are loading kind of on the fly. Like, we want to make sure that the game mode's loaded before we load the controller, before we load the player, kind of thing. So we just want to make sure we have it actually in the game. So we're going to go is valid, and then we're going to be looking at that new pawn that just came in. Off of that, we're going to use the is valid side, and we're going to set the active widget for that. So we're going to need the widget switcher. Let's do set active widget. Okay, and actually let's do set active widget just a little bit different. We can do it by just this, and that's the name, but index I find a little bit easier, because you can pass numbers and you don't have to worry about the spelling getting weird. So index 0, we're going to change that to index 1, because we want it to flip over to the next one. And I think that should take care. Oh, we have one other thing we got to do. We got to make sure that the color for the start box is the same color as our character. So we'll do the start box up here. And let's see, we've already got the player color, so we can use that. I'm going to bring that down here then, since we're going to share it. And I think on that one, yeah, I think we're going to be doing a brush color on that one. So I'm going to drag this down. We'll do brush color, set brush color. It's going to be for that. And we're going to connect these up, and I'm going to run the player color over here. Put a little reroute node in here just to kind of tidy things up a little bit. Okay. And I believe that's everything we need. I'll go ahead and save everything, and let's just take a look. Let me turn on a couple controllers here, and let's see how everything looks, if they come online the correct way. All right, there we go. And let's back over here. Let's hit play. Okay, so player 1 automatically starts in the game the way we have it set up right now. I'm going to press player 2. Player 2 changed. Awesome. I'm going to press player 3. All right, player 3 is in there. And let's see, player 4 is in the game. So we have all four activated at the same time. I'm going to do something a little crazy here and see what happens. If I fall off the kill floor, I might be really, really far away. So they may fall for a really long time. And if I hit start, oh, yeah, they did die. But yeah, we'll change that later. So it goes back to hit start if they die. But as soon as they fall off, I can hit start again and they're back. Okay. All right. That's what we have for now. And we're going to be moving on to some more fun stuff here in a little bit.